Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the OUR Program Partner Quarterly Meeting. Today, September 21st, 2023, and this is presented by the Office of Undergraduate Research. So excited to have everybody here. Land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that this land, which is named for the Ute tribe, is the traditional and ancestral homeland of the Shoshone, Paiute, Goshu, and Ute tribes. The University of Utah recognizes and respects the enduring relationship that exists between many Indigenous peoples and their traditional homelands. We respect the sovereign relationship between tribes, states, and the federal government, and we affirm the University of Utah's commitment to a partnership with Native nations and the urban Indian communities through research, education, and community outreach activities. So facilitators for this meeting is myself. My name is Angie Leva. As an introduction, in case you guys probably got emails from me and you've never seen my face, here I am. I'm the academic program coordinator, and we have Dr. Annie Isabel Fukushima.
Hi, friends. My name is Dr. Annie Isabel Fukushima. I'm the Associate Dean of Undergraduate Studies and the Director of the Office of Undergraduate Research. We're always so excited to see all of you. Thank you all for joining us in your busy morning.
Okay, so just as an agenda, we are going to be going over today Summer Program Partners Recap of Summer 2023, Summer Program Activities 2024, which will include recruitment, affirmative action decision, will this affect this? Info ready, adding program partners to our applications, consultations for applications, affirmative action compliance. Summer Program Undergraduate Research, SPUR, mentor applications, early exploration scholars, NSF grant updates, and Undergraduate Research Advisory Council. So if at any point you have a question or something you want to make sure we discuss during today's meeting, please put it in the chat or verbally if chat is unavailable to you. Put your name, affiliation, your question in brief, and yeah, we will definitely get to it and answer your question.
Wonderful. We have from our colleagues in humanities, linguistics, nursing, physics and astronomy, sociology, NARI, SRI, Reach U2, advising, medicine, digital learning, Adobe, Realm, Transform, Root, humanities, and yeah, we've got some multiple connected projects. So great. Engineering's here too. Wonderful. Wonderful. And pharmaceutics. And if I missed you, it was not intentional. It was just me trying not to repeat similar or people in similar clusters. So wonderful to see folks. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to punt it over to Angie to do the next one now. We'll go ahead and go next. Yeah.
Of course. Okay, so we're going to start with our recap of summer 2023. Specifically, we're just want to talk about what went well, what we could do better, any suggestions you guys might have, or if you just want to share, how great it went. We always love to hear things like that. So I am just going to go down the list through the representatives that I know are here. How about we hear from Nari, Walida, if you would like to share how summer went?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Walita Ranger, the program coordinator for NARI. The summer went really well. We just got our evaluation back for the summer. We have a third-party evaluator that does it every year. We got positive feedback overall. A couple of things, and it's always just organization. The students, I guess the only negative feedback we got was students saying they didn't have enough lead time with certain events, and they requested maybe a newsletter. So that's something I'm going to try to implement for next summer is a newsletter that kind of outlines all of the events for the summer for them. And those are things from the NARI program specifically. And then I'm hoping to incorporate other events happening for all of the summer programs, such as the socials and the mini grad expo and the poster symposium. So they just asked for one place where they can find all of that for the summer. And then other than that, yeah, positive feedback overall. We were able to have our largest cohort. And I know before summer started, we were worried about application numbers, but thank you to our university partners, we were able to get a solid number of applicants, and they all did great. We had 100% completion rate, 28 participants, and we were able to do some summer travel. And we just got word that we have all of our students apply to SACNAS, which is a national conference that's happening in October. And 25 out of 28 of our participants will be there. They've either received a travel scholarship or they are presenting their research that they did over the summer. So 25 out of 28. So I'm pretty excited about that and pretty proud of them for working hard. So thank you for allowing me the time to share the experience and how the summer went.
Wow, thank you so much. We love hearing stuff like that. And that sounds so great. I'm so excited for you and your conference coming up. That sounds wonderful. We would love to also hear about that. And maybe in the next program partner meeting, you can let us know about that. So thank you so much. So I'm going to go to physics and astronomy. Are you Dr. Jordan Garten?
Great, thank you. Yeah, I'm representing physics and astronomy RU, which is an NSF funded program that mostly has students from outside the University of Utah, and also our summer undergraduate research program, which is internally funded for University of Utah students in our department. And the summer actually was this was maybe our most sort of, the cohort was the largest that we've had. I think we had 18 or 19 students between the two pieces, and they were super engaged, and they built a really nice community. And so it was a very successful summer from that perspective. We didn't really have any major hiccups. We had a really nice all-program social that we hosted, bowling, and we weren't able to provide food because it's a little bit challenging to bring in food to the union. So it turns out we can do pizza as long as we do it a little bit later in the day. So we'll keep that in mind for next time. And I met and chatted with lots of students from other programs. So thank you all for sending your students to that. Yeah, it was good. I think we had some challenges at the front end, just sort of like with housing as usual, but they weren't anything big. It was just trying to make sure that we had the appropriate number of rooms in the appropriate places. But yeah, it was a really great summer.
Jordan, can you remind us, where do you house your students?
It's I'm trying to remember the name of it this year, but
I think it's in Heritage because you were next to us.
yeah, that makes sense. That sounds. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. And I will just say the bowling social, we heard a lot about that. I know the students really, really love that. And like, that was definitely a success. So maybe in the future, next summer, definitely doing another bowling social, because I think that one was very well attended, got a lot of positive feedback on it.
Great.
Yeah, and so I will circle back and I'll go to Dr. Gloria Statham from GSRM.
Summer went well. We have a lot more opportunities for social events, and the students really appreciate that. Walita and I were thinking they want more. We have received some of the results from the focus group, and they want more, and we already have increased. So it was interesting that they want more, and we have already provided more. So our plan maybe moving forward is to not us organize it so much, but giving them the tools so they can self-organize more events that are maybe a little bit not as time-consuming for us, or that we have to have a budget, but maybe finding tools at the university that already exist, and maybe even groups or departments that want to do that for our programs. So connecting with those departments earlier on. I don't know if you know of any department or program that's what part of their training, which is provide social activities and integration for groups. So it would be great to have that ahead of time.
Maybe we can, on the OUR website, Gloria, you're making me think, on OUR's website, we can start to create like maybe some kind of like a link ups to other opportunities, like whether that is Parks and Rec, so then they can rent stuff to go hiking, or if they want to go on a museum tour, stuff like that, like things that are both locally easy to get to. Yeah, so we'll go ahead and I'll work, Angie will, sorry, I'm like, when I say we, I really mean Angie will work on this. So yes,
So
that's a good
maybe,
suggestion.
thanks, Annie. And what we can do is we do have a list of what's happening in town and at the state. So we have concerts, we have museums. Maybe we can give you the list that we have ahead of time, and you can update it for 2024 and have that available for everyone. Because it's very
Be awesome.
comprehensive. It's like 2 pages of resources, but still they wanted more. But maybe if they see it in different parts, it's not just buried in the orientation package that we gave them.
Yeah, maybe we can also make it like, so it's not a list. We'll find a way to present it so it feels like eye-catching. So like because I think a lot of young folks are image-based. And so we might want to, we'll figure something that out on our website. Yeah.
All right. So I am going to send you that list that we have for 2023. So you can look for the updates for 2024. Like we have farmers market. I mean, so many things. And so yes, that's a great idea. Thanks. And other than that, maybe I'll just stop here.
No, that was wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Sladham. We love hearing that. And yeah, wonderful suggestions. And now I will move down the line. So we will hear from Reach U2, Maud Romney, if you would like to share how summer 2023 went.
Yeah, of course. Reach U2 this year was our second year, and it was by far the best year that we've had. If I were to rate it on my own opinion, I would say 10 out of 10. The evaluation data that we've reviewed matches that quite closely. I think that the biggest improvements that we had this year were related to our evaluations check-in, to having a visiting faculty researcher from NCANT. And sorry, let me provide a bit of an overview. Reach U2 is a partnership with North Carolina A&T. We had 6 students come out to do health-related research with a mentor, whether it be within our department or up at HCI, et cetera. And they were accompanied by a visiting faculty researcher. A new improvement this year was we housed our students at Lassonde versus Benchmark, and that could have been the biggest game changer just because it's such an improved housing facility compared to the older stuff on further east campus. But back to the evaluations, we had a weekly red cap survey that went out that questioned the scholars about their relationship with their mentor, progress on their research, progress on the SPUR activities, and just their overall well-being, really, to say, hey, are you okay? Do you need anything? Is there anything we can do? And then one for the faculty researcher to check in to see what their perceived perspective on the scholars' well-being was. So we were able to easily catch social problems that might come up or questions with their research project, etc. Speaking to what Gloria already had said, we had a social calendar where we went and put in free events all around the city, links to stuff they could do, and tried to keep engaged with each other socially at least once or twice a week. Other than that, I really have to credit the success of this year's cohort to our cohort. They really melded well, no big issues. One hiccup with a mentor, but again, because of those surveys, we were able to correct that within the first 2 weeks. So, and then also, I'm letting it slide though, this was our first year partnered with the OUR department, with Dr. Fukushima, Megan, Angie, and it really just made it so much easier on our department. So thank you so much. Kudos to everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much, Matt. That was wonderful. Love hearing that. Love hearing the partnership is being successful. Yeah, definitely. That's so great to hear. And next I will head down the line to Realm, Dr. Haller.
So the REALM REU stands for Research Experience in Alpine Meteorology. And similar to the physics program, this is externally funded by the National Science Foundation. And this summer we were actually in a no-cost extension year. So we were finishing one grant, and thus we had a slightly smaller cohort. We do have, we just got renewed for another 5 years. So we'll have a larger cohort next year. But overall, everything went quite well. It was such a collegial group. I wanted to mainly say how much I appreciate OUR and all your support, and how much that's helped us launch the successful REU during our first grant, and how much that definitely helped us, because we were so successful, receive our second grant. And it's just been just remarkable how smooth things have gone, and I really credit a lot of that to OUR. So one thing I wanted to say is that we also had an external evaluation, and probably similar to many of these programs, that was from an outside institution, and that was separately funded. And I do think there's a great deal of information in those external evaluations that might be useful to the larger group as a whole, pertaining to the socials and everything else. And I wondered if that's something that OUR might want to collect and data mine, essentially. We receive a summary report. We actually do, similar to the last speaker, we do weekly evaluations, we do weekly evaluations. Every other week is a mentor, and every other week is the mentees. And we get a lot of feedback, and we make adjustments to the program the entire time to make sure that we're fitting the needs of the students and the mentors. And it just might be some good opportunities there. You know, highlights is 100% of our mentees would definitely recommend REALM to their friends and to other students. So we're happy about that. And yeah, so overall, really
Can I ask
well.
a question, because you talked about sharing reports. We, of course, would love to receive, and we're going to talk about agreements for sharing data back and forth. I guess my question, and that we'll talk about that later, but my question when you say share reports is, when you think about like sharing it with OUR, what is the kind of work you would like to see do? So then that way it doesn't just fall into an archive that no one accesses, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I wasn't actually thinking about sharing data because of privacy issues there. I was thinking about sharing the summary report from our evaluator, and I should have been more clear about that.
Yeah,
But
no.
yeah, there is always feedback in the summary report about things that were mentioned again previously, you know, about quality of dorms, etc. You know, we've made a lot of changes to things that are less associated with the research, but we get a lot of feedback about online, you know, on-campus dining. We've made some big changes associated with that, and that information might be really helpful for OUR to assimilate and then have that for future programs or new programs.
That would be awesome. Okay, great. And maybe we could then update our year-end report to include a more summary, high view of some of the feedback and recommendations for the next year. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Haller. And next I will do Root. So Megan McKay, if you would like to share how summer 2023 went, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, definitely. I can share. So I'm from Root, which if you're unaware, it's the Rural and Underserved Utah Training Experience through the School of Medicine. So we have our undergraduate program where we bring 12 students to campus from rural areas of Utah, Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho for a 10-week research program. And I would say it went super well this year. It was a little different this year. It was our first year being grant funded, which was great, but also just was some changes. So we now have 12 students completely funded, which was super cool to have grant money taking care of all of that. It's going to be great. We're actually sending the majority of them to the ABR CMS conference in November. I think it's like biomedical research for minoritized students in Phoenix. So we're super excited. We have some of them presenting posters there. So that's awesome. I will say with the grant, I think some things that were different were because it's NIH funded, we're now in the specific area of NIH where we can get only our mentors from like cardiovascular, lung, and blood research. So it does limit when before we had a really wide array of research opportunities. So we've been navigating that, but our students seem to really like it. Some people were like, this is not exactly what I had wanted to do, but now I think it's super cool. So that was cool to see. And we are hoping to write another grant in the future to increase our amount of mentors that we can use. But yeah, I think it was super successful. They had a great time at all of the events that were put on. They did a great social. They said that the research symposium was super awesome. So overall, I think it was definitely a success for Root.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing, Megan. Love hearing that symposium was such a positive and wonderful experience for you and your students. Love to hear that.
I'm the representative for the last bullet point for the summer undergraduate research internship in pharmaceutics and drug delivery. And yeah, so this was our third year of doing this, and it's an internally department funded program. We usually only have, between 2 to 4 students in a given year. And this year we were fortunate to partner with NARI. We had one of the NARI students working with one of our molecular pharmaceutics faculty, as well as one of the SERP students as well, working with one of our faculty. And so that was really nice to kind of partner from and learn from, your programs that are way more well established and, externally funded. And so really, really grateful to be part of those programs and to, have the students, interface with the other students and have access to those wonderful networking and social events. And so this year we did have 2 of our internal summer internships and then 4 total with those other partner programs. And yeah, our feedback was good, kind of similar with what Walita mentioned early on about just giving a little bit more transparency and upfront information about the program expectations, guidelines, dates, and things like that. And kind of more weekly information about how to interface with other programs. And kind of find access to that information too. So we're working on kind of building that out, kind of like with what Walita was mentioning, and having kind of an online repository for that information. And Maud, I really, really like your weekly REDCap surveys out. I'm gonna definitely reach out to you and about that afterwards. I think that would be great to kind of get that dynamic feedback and identify potential problems between students. Yeah, thank you for that, Maud. Yeah, so I'll send you an email offline.
I wanted to say this actually what Realm, something that was said with regard to Realm. I think we were also in a no cost extension year, but I just wanted, in case this is relevant to anybody else, we actually were able to get an NSF supplement on our REU site award. So we were actually able to make a full cohort. And the other thing I want to say is that we're now renewing, and we're actually going to be asking for to expand our site to do research experiences for teachers as well. So if anybody has that kind of interest and wants to think together about supporting teachers, in-service high school teachers, then love to chat with you about that.
Yeah, this was one of the feedback that we continue to receive from our students. So while the mentors and co-mentors are better prepared, I think that there's still a little bit of a gap between the expectations that the students have when they come. For example, being able to see their principal investigators or the mentors on a regular situation, instead of maybe having the co-mentor, which is typically a graduate student or a postdoc or someone in the lab, what is the expectation for the PI of the laboratory? And I think students really want a little bit more time with the PI. And so we make it that the PI had to at least have 2 2-hour meetings during the summer, one-on-one with the students after that initial orientation day. Of course, the students meet with the PI during the laboratory weekly meetings for some of the labs, but some labs don't have laboratory weekly meetings during the summer. So I think this is something to consider and to bring to the training for the mentors. The other thing is that I think we need to revisit more mentoring for diverse students and diverse learners. Even though we have addressed that, I think there is still more room for improvement.
Some of the things that you're getting at, Gloria, is that the ERMT, or the mentor program, used to be under the Office of Undergraduate Research, and it moved to the VPR. And now it's a different program housed elsewhere. And so we can encourage people to join it. We can't require it. And I think that that's something we've learned about faculties. You can't require them to do things. But I think what I'm hearing you say is like, what are the kind of onboarding orientations we can do for our summer programs or for mentors in general? Like, what kind of things can we do that might be a little bit more low-hanging fruit, doesn't require them to participate in a series of trainings, but can still get them thinking about things at least at the get-go. And if they want more development, they can go and participate in the mentor certificate program. I like the suggestions. I'm already hearing like best practices in teams. I think we can do another run through of mentoring across diversity. Yeah. And if other folks want to be like involved in this stuff, these questions, please send a message and we can all like work together and figure out what's the best way to get this organized. Awesome.
And I really like the text from Maudie, the cultural aware
Yeah.
mentoring. And if you can elaborate a little bit more
Yeah.
about this training.
Yeah, so since our participants are from a historically Black college or university, we want to make sure that any mentors that we have that may not be familiar with what culturally aware mentor training is, we provide some resources and ask them to complete one online module. I believe it's 90 minutes. And I'd be happy to share those resources with OUR so they can distribute them.
That would be great. Thank you, Maud.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Great. Anybody else on the list? Our other partners happiest. And I don't believe we have Sarah or Tim here. So
And
anybody?
Annie, I'm not seeing the Pacific Islander summer program here.
Yeah. Anybody from the Pacific Islander summer program here?
This is Simons. I actually had a student that
Great.
participated in the Pacific Islander program. And
Great.
actually right now I'm at the Diabetes and Metabolism Research Center retreat, often sequestered in a little room. But just about 20 minutes ago, one of the students gave a lightning talk about the success of that program. And I know that the student, together with the program director, Will Holland, both did a great job. And there's been lots of great feedback concerning that program.
Yes, I've been hearing from them too. So we're really excited to, they weren't formally enfolded into OUR this summer. We invited them to many things, and I think they didn't get their funds until like, it felt like it was May. It was kind of close to the wire. So it was a little bit closer to than what we were used to, but we for sure have informed them that we would like to integrate them more into our partnerships. So we'll double check to make sure they're on the list. So Angie will make sure they're on the list. And let's see, Walida raised your hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, we're talking about adding programs to the list.
Yeah.
There's also the MAP program, which is a summer program out of the OHIDE office, and they provide MCAT prep and academic and professional development. And so I think Donna Eldridge wanted to be added to the program partners list as well, because she liked the idea of the socials for the students.
Great. Yeah, we had met with them in earlier formations of that summer program, and I think that sounds great. We can revisit that with Donna. That's great. Okay, we're going to keep going through some slides. We can circle back to things we did not have a chance to talk about, but we just wanted to make sure OUR also provided a brief recap of some things. So, we had some transitions, and we just want to say thank you to Angie for joining the team. Welcome. It's super exciting. Really hard task to transition in the middle, but we did our best. Great job. We also, some of the new things we did, OUR sponsored socials. as well as so we saw that they were attended better than in previous events. We also centralized communications for sponsoring events, but promoting it on the OUR calendar. I think we are seeing how we could probably evolve that a little bit more. And we provided breakfast at the Undergraduate Research Symposium instead of box lunches people could take to go for our specific programs. And then we just provided breakfast for everyone. And then we continue to organize our education series and graduate school mini expo and make that available to everyone. And so we just want to thank you all for sending your students. Next slide. Is that what we saw is that there are 405 students who attended our OUR summer education series. We also had 159 attendees at the Graduate School Mini Expo. We know there was some hiccups. So next year we'll make sure our keynote is in person. That was a last minute shift. So next year we'll make sure they're in person so we don't have those hiccups. We're also not going to use the OWL. We recognize that the using the OWL might be better in some situations, but did not work for a panel setting. So for those that joined remotely, we know we did our best to edit the video, or I should say Shelly did her best to edit the video. Lots of work went into that to make it more accessible visually and in sound. We also supported through our sponsorship the 7 summer socials, which led to 150 attendees. We sent this out and just re-sharing it with everyone about how things broke down for the Undergraduate Research Symposium. Thank you for having your students present. We are at our brink of, how we fit in that space from 9 to noon. We may want to kind of talk about, should we make it longer or should we use a different space? That's kind of an ideal space. It looks really nice, has a nice feel, and then the setup is really good when we use it. So overall, it worked for our numbers, but if the numbers grow, we're going to have to use a different space, and we'll make sure that the location of the number posters is more clear on our website for the next summer symposium. We also, so this is just a little bit of a breakdown, 234 presenters from 78 different universities, and those that were from the U represented 14 colleges. Jordan, just go ahead and unmute yourself. I see your hand raised.
Yeah, just real quick, how does this number compare to the fall and spring symposia?
For spring, it's small because that is our biggest symposium. And actually we can't really compare it to spring because this past spring we did UCUR. And so we had over 640 presenters from across the state. So it's different. So I don't know if we can compare it, but yeah, so it's smaller, but it is growing for sure. And it's a nice healthy size, but if it gets any bigger, we will be too big for the Alumni House.
I actually have a question, Annie.
Go ahead.
Sorry about that.
No.
Some of our students were really interested in getting feedback, and I understand that there was judges stopping by the posters.
We're gonna talk about that in a minute. So we'll circle back to the feedback. Yeah, okay. Let's circle back to that. So I'm gonna make a note, feedback on URS. Okay, great. So annual report, we distributed that. Deans received their specific numbers as well as associate deans. The Range Journal, there was a question about that. That will be officially published in January 24. So you'll see your student submissions, if they submitted to the journal, come out. The second issue will be the next summer. So we've increased our number of issues to be summer and with a summer deadline and a fall deadline for the issues to come out in that summer as well as in the spring. Some of the things that we are working on is an MOU with you all. And this is just to make sure that when we share student information that we are in agreement. And so just so you know, that could include the Undergraduate Research Symposium student feedback. We can pull those numbers and poster reviewers if we know which students you want us to collect for you that are your students. So that's something you'll be hearing from Angie. We are working on our MOUs. We already have MOUs with Happiest and Reach You Too, as well as political science. And so we don't need to revisit those MOUs, but we can, unless if you'd like. But Gannett, your hand's up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I understand this MOU. Is this more for evaluation, or is this the question that Gloria had earlier? Is this for
about
our students?
data share?
Yeah. Okay.
This allow us to data share with you. Yeah.
But Okay, when you say data share, so
be-
evaluation of the posters falls under data share?
It would be your students. So we could pull your students. The agreement would be you give us a list of those names and units. We will pull those student units list names, and then we will send back those poster evaluations. Yeah.
Okay, so we need to get an MOU set up with you.
Yeah. We
Okay,
just want to be clear. So when we are pulling information, who we're doing it for and when we're doing it for folks. So we're just
gotcha.
creating agreements because otherwise we get requests all the time and we're trying to formalize that. So we're not just, we get requests all the time. So we're trying to formalize this stuff. And so this will help us to be clear about what we're giving to you. And so then that way it will include for our summer program partners, which has been renamed to OUR program partners. All of you who've partnered in for these summer activities, we will go ahead and create an agreement with you to share that information. And if there's any kind of information you can share back, so for example, Gannett, you shared your summary report, that would be great. Then that could be included in our agreements. You share a summary report, it doesn't need to get into the weeds of stuff, but anything that might help us to continue to improve summer experiences and undergraduate research experience overall. And then we can then also share back with you all. Does that make
Okay.
sense? Yeah.
That makes sense.
But we would not share students that are not your students with you. So it would be only your students. Yeah. That's a great question though. So that's part of the MOU. We'll make sure to include that in there about sharing URS evaluation. And it just kind of helps us to keep track of who we're sharing what with when. And yeah, so we'll work on that. We'll do the agreements for 2024 and we can do retrospective data for 2023. And I think some of the stuff that will get included is that when, for example, if you're organizing a social and you've partnered in, we want to make sure that are you one of the partners that will organize a social, and then we'll go ahead and send money over to you all as well. One of the questions that came up, and this was last week, thank you for bringing this up, Gloria, was a question about recruitment with affirmative action decisions. I think right now that what we can say is that if there is concern about that, we are happy to provide support for anyone who's concerned about how your applications may be impacted by the current affirmative action, what's happening. And so if you have concerns, please do, maybe we can form a sub meeting for folks who have questions about that. Please reach out to Angie if you're concerned about that. We can either do a meeting as a small group if you're interested in that, or we can just meet with you one-on-one. So just let Angie know your preference. We can also provide consultations. One of the other things we want to let you know is we are readying our application to go live on InfoReady. And so for Happiest and Reach U2, you will already be in the InfoReady system, as well as those that do purchase spots. But for all other partners, the question becomes, would you be interested in being listed? So we can then, if a student is interested in your program and has applied through with us, would you like to receive those applications as well, should they not be selected for the SPUR program? And so SPUR, Happiest, or the other kind of program. So let's kind of talk through that. This is a conversation. We don't want to just list you if you don't want to be listed, if you already have your formal systems of application. But I know that what we heard from last summer was that people were having difficulties with recruiting. And so we wanted to see if there was a way for us to promote generally through what we're doing, to all of you as well. So I saw a hand go up. So Shanti, did you want to ask your question?
Yes. So can you just tell us a little bit that what is the status exactly about both affirmative action and also the EDI? So that we need to take or is considered at the moment, and what are the changes, let's say, from 2 years ago?
Yeah. So I think that one of the things that we can just safely say is that the institution is moving towards a more conservative stance. What we are seeing is that happening at the highest level is they're saying we do not make decisions based on race and ethnicity when determining who is joining our university, getting funding and all of that. And so I've been seeing a lot more of a conservative stance towards these issues. And I think it's also to be proactive, not just for what's happening at the federal, but what we're seeing that could be happening in the pipeline for local legislature. And so some of the things that I think that I would say is that even with OUR scholarships programs, with the early exploration scholarships, we cannot say that we select students because they're students of color. All we can say is we encourage students of color and low income to apply. And so that's the language we've been using that has been okayed. I hope, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, I mean, what I was worried is that some of the externally funded RU programs, for example, they are written in a spirit that they would consider these. I mean, I think Jordan can correct me if I'm wrong, but like, for example, our NSF-RU was, one of the goals was to increase the diversity. So now we have to revise that, or is it like the moving forward because it's a federal change anyways, or
I would say that if you're really concerned about your grant application and all of that, is that I would recommend, especially for the federal grants, if this is already what you've agreed to do by your funding, then I would stick to what you've already agreed to do by your funding, right? You are funded to do this thing. I think where we get a little bit more in concern, because OUR is funded by state funds, right? Is that we have to be a little bit more careful in how we do these things, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes
sense. Of where our funds are coming from. Yes. If it's coming from private, then you are at liberty to do what is within the realm of your private donors. Yeah, go ahead. Megan, do you want to say something to this?
Yeah, I just had a very similar question in that ours is NIH funded, and our specific eligibility requirements is to qualify as a minority, disadvantaged, or underrepresented individual as defined by the NIH. Yep. So obviously, yeah, we would be keeping that. That's in our funding. My question is more than, we do put that language on our application that goes out to our students because we want to be upfront with who will be accepted. So I guess my question is, under the University of Utah's new policies, like, are we allowed to still put that on our application to let them know that those are the requirements?
What I would recommend is, do you make it clear that where your funds are coming from?
We do, yeah, and we say that as defined by the NIH, like, this
then
is
you're good. That sounds awesome to me. Okay. But again, if you have concerns about it, you can, I can elevate this up to, I'll elevate this up to Erin and let her know that there is some confusion. And so then maybe they can just have a town hall around that. But as I would just suggest, business as usual. If your funds already dictate based on what you've applied for, what you've been approved for, based on your federal or other funds, private funds, go ahead and business as usual, because that's what the funds have already agreed to do. Your funder has agreed to do. And I think that where we get a little bit murky is if you are using state funds, and all of you are using a variety of funds. Let's pull together, I'll pull together sort of a recommendation, and I'll reach out to Erin to see if she can maybe come out with a memo about this. So we have more clear guidance.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So going back to the partner applications, do you have preliminary model that you can share with us? How will it look?
Yeah, that's a great question. Angie, can you make a note to share with folks maybe a PDF version of the application? I think right now our challenges that we've learned is that it goes live if we share it outwards. It goes actually live, and so we are holding off on making it go officially live, and so it's not showing up right now. But Angie can, I think, put PDF or share that. Is that correct, Angie?
Yes, I will look into that and see if there is a PDF we can share, just so, like you said, everyone can see a preliminary example of what it would look like.
Yeah, and that will include like how we can list if they would like to be considered for a for another program, for another summer program at the U.
A quick deadline question. When is the deadline for list of mentors? When do you require that?
Oh, Maud, that's great. We were going to just reach out to you. Angie has on her ready to send soon to reach out with you to talk about timelines.
Perfect.
And so for so we'll just go ahead and have that conversation with those of you that we're working with differently, if that's okay. Thank you. Okay, Angie, go ahead.
So just as a reminder, talking on this vein of idea, SPUR 2024 mentor applications, those are currently open right now. The deadline to apply is October 6th, 5 p.m. Mountain Time. So for this, you may submit a project application for one student. Projects should provide students with hands-on research experience that require 35 to 40 hours per week across the 10-week program. The selection of mentors is competitive, just as it is for students. Applications are scored according to the strength of the information provided, strong emphasis on mentoring philosophies and student learning outcomes and benefits. If you would like to make your application as competitive as possible, definitely put time into mentoring philosophies. We do emphasize field, college, discipline diversity. And if you are having questions about, we had a mentor info session yesterday. The link is here. It goes to our website. So if you have questions of how can I make my application more competitive as a mentor, we specifically talk about that. And so, yeah, definitely recommend checking out that info session meeting recording if you have questions about the application. And of course, you are welcome to reach out directly to myself as well if you have questions.
So we're just going to do some high note, really quick things about some of our funding opportunities. And so next slide, we're going to go ahead and invite Jennifer, who's going to talk a little about, when you go to our main page, you'll see that there's all of our funding opportunities. And we've launched our Early Exploration Scholars Program. So I'd like to invite Jennifer to just give quick overview of that program and where we're at. Jennifer? And if you can introduce yourself, Jennifer. Jennifer's new to the OUR team. Many of you have not met her.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Santiago. I'm the new academic program coordinator for the Early Exploration Scholars Program. Our first cohort will be introduced this spring 2024. It is a low barrier scholarship opportunity that is intended to create connections to research opportunities and mentors at the University of Utah. It's good for the students to grow interests early on research beyond opportunities found in curriculum. We do offer a $500 scholarship, and eligible students are students who are within their first 60 credits at the U. That includes transfer students as well. And the application currently for spring 2024 is November 30th to submit for spring.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jennifer. And you can contact Jennifer if you have questions and visit that link. Just as quick updates on NSF, stuff that we're doing in OUR. So NSF site, we are collaborating with Masood Parvania to do an NSF site application for 2024. If you're interested in collaborating, please do connect with us. If you're interested in other kinds of grant applications, I know I just got an email, a call from Kino, so I know I'll be doing a letter of support for them. We do not have to go in on all the grants. We do not have the capacity or the time. And also the expertise. The expertise lies with the faculty who do the research. And so we do encourage you all to work with your faculty or as faculty to lead those grants. And we're happy to provide a letter of support or what you may need to make your application strong if you need some basic data. The other thing I just wanted to give folks an update, we are still in pending status for the LSAMP. So no updates there. We cannot reapply until our status changes from pending to either awarded or not awarded. And so right now we're in a little bit of an interesting limbo of trying to hear or find out what's going on. Yeah, maybe they're so excited to fund us that they really want to see award and they are just waiting on something. That is what we're going to hope for, and we will find out soon. And so that's on the NSF updates. The other reminder is that we have formed an undergraduate research advisory council Next slide. This specific council will be more involved in helping to look at the recommendations that we have for the early exploration scholars, as well as the faculty selection for OUR SPUR program. Because we want to diversely select across the programs across campus, we want to make sure that we have input from folks. If I've reached out to your deans to nominate or select a representative from your colleges. If you are not familiar with this, please do reach out to me. I'm happy to tell you who we know we have in the docket. If you yourself are interested, we would welcome you to be part of our founding Undergraduate Research Advisory Council. The deadline September 30th. Keep going. You can take a look at our website for more information if you want to read more into that. Just some reminders, do attend our education series, as well as just a quick reminder about some of our deadlines that are forthcoming. You can find all this information on the our.utah.edu website. We encourage you to check out our education series, over 60 videos of content for you to use to support your students, as well as live events are also found there. And we're super excited for your partnership. So thank you all. Our next meeting is going to be January 24th in the spring at 11 a.m. We look forward to seeing you all. Please look out for that calendar invite from Angie. If you don't know if somebody has received an invite and you think they should, we welcome you to suggest a way. We are happy to forward the invitation on for the program partners meeting. This is not an exclusionary group. This is a welcoming group. And so thank you all for joining us.